If you're on any weight loss medication like Ozempic, Mounjaro, or others right now, there's a question sitting quietly in your mind. You probably don't always say it out loud because you desire the results, but it's there. What happens when you stop the medication? Not will I lose weight? You already know that answer. The real questions are different and can be scary, so most people avoid them. Will the hunger come back? Will my body undo everything? Did this actually fix anything, or did I just borrow time? Will I get my diabetes back if I stop? Those questions scare people more than the needle or the side effects ever did. Since the release of the last video, which was on biological costs of GLP-1s, I've received many requests and messages asking to go in depth about science-based exit strategies to retain the results. Interestingly enough, not enough questions about side effects, dosing, or about speed. There are many sources online, and hopefully your healthcare team discusses dosing and personal medical questions with you. The hard questions are, how do I stop safely? How do I keep what I gained? How do I come off without my body fighting me? So I created this video to help clarify this based on biology. There is some overlap with the last video concepts, but to go in depth about these strategies, it's important to cover some of those again, and also repetition of some concepts can hopefully solidify the approach and strategies. This is not a video to shame you by challenging your discipline or to motivate you to fight hunger. I will teach you the biology behind what happens so you are prepared for everything. And so to speak, you land the plane safely and keep your results. Of course, results vary, and this video is for educational purposes only. If you understand what your body is doing, panic turns into planning and fear turns into strategy. That's my goal here in this video. In the last video, the biological costs of Ozempic and Mounjaro, we talked about how GLP-1 medications work, why they're effective, why they're powerful, and what happens when you override a survival system that evolved over millions of years. This video is the next chapter because every powerful tool creates a second problem. What happens when you take it away? Let me say this clearly. Semaglutide and Tirzepatide are powerful tools for the right population. For many people, they are genuinely life-changing because they improve metabolic health. So this is not an anti-drug video. The problem is removing a strong biological signal without understanding what biology does next. Not knowing what you're dealing with is where panic starts. That's where rebound starts, which leads to people blaming themselves, or worse, they think they're broken. As you know, there are numerous toxic videos on social media like TikTok and Instagram that are very stressful to watch, and unfortunately, they are part of our current connected society. And if clear science-based explanations like this are helpful for you, a simple way to support this work is to like the video. It helps these conversations reach people who need clarity, not hype. Before I go on further, here's a quick reminder. I'm Dr. Amin Hedayat. I'm a triple board certified physician, assistant clinical professor, pathologist, and dermatopathologist. I'm doing this video for education, but I'm not your personal physician. The information is not medical advice. I'm not telling you how to dose or when to stop. Any decision or medication changes must be made with your prescribing clinician. I hope this video will equip you to ask better questions, learn what is happening in your body, and make informed decisions ultimately. Now, let's talk about evidence. We don't have to guess what happens after stopping GLP-1 medications. There's ample data on this important topic. In the Step 4 trial published in JAMA in 2021, patients were stabilized on semaglutide. Then the study did something very revealing. Some people stayed on the medication, others were switched to placebo. When the signal stayed, weight continued down. When the signal was removed, weight trended back up. That tells us something simple. The signal is actually doing work. There's another study quoted constantly, the Step 1 off treatment extension, published in 2022. Researchers followed participants for 1 full year after they completely stopped semaglutide. On average, a large portion of the lost weight returned, often summarized as about 2/3 over that year. That number terrifies people. But the conclusion most people draw is wrong. So I'm here to hopefully fix that for you and shed some light. People see that data and think, my body is broken, I failed, I ruined my metabolism. That is not what the science says. What we are seeing is homeostasis. Homeostasis is the body's drive to return to what feels familiar. Your body doesn't know you're dieting. It doesn't know you're optimizing health. It doesn't care about your ideology or your motivation. It knows one thing: energy availability changed. And biology responds to that aggressively because life depends on that. This has been described for decades in human physiology research, including landmark studies in the New England Journal of Medicine on metabolic adaptation after weight loss. Here's the simplest way to understand rebound. After weight loss, you live in a gap. On one side of the gap, your metabolism is lower because you're smaller. On the other side, your hunger drive is higher because signaling hasn't recalibrated yet. So you're burning fewer calories while wanting more calories. That's the gap. GLP-1 medications bridge that gap chemically. When the medication is removed, the gap is exposed. Nothing broke. Your ancient biology is doing everything instinctively. The famine is over, so let's take in as much calories before the next drought or famine. The bridge, which was the drug, was removed before the ground underneath it was reinforced. In medicine, we call this metabolic adaptation. That phrase sounds technical, but all it means is this: after weight loss, your brain temporarily behaves as if energy is scarce, even when it isn't. Fat cells send weaker, we're safe signals. Hunger signals rise. This has been shown repeatedly in peer-reviewed studies on leptin, ghrelin, and hypothalamic regulation. So this establishes that after you stop the medication, you're not broken. You just got rewired, and you need a protocol to resume back to normal. Now, here's the part almost no one explains. When the medication stops, hunger doesn't come back gently. It can overshoot. So those first weeks are where exits succeed or fail. If you don't have a solid plan, you may eat the whole fridge. Next, I'm going to explain why that surge happens, why it's temporary, and how to protect yourself during the most vulnerable window. That's where we build the glide path. This is the moment almost everyone describes the same way. You lower the dose, or you delay an injection, or you stop for any reason such as high cost, surgery, access to the medication, side effect profile. And suddenly, food noise is louder than ever. Not just hunger, but also thoughts about food, including planning food. And we're in a society surrounded by food delivery apps and fast food. And you know what happens next. And the thought that follows is almost universal. Why does this feel worse than before? Let me slow this down. That feeling is intense. It's uncomfortable, and it's frightening if you weren't warned. But it's not random. It is a known biological phase. While you're on a GLP-1 medication, external signaling is doing a lot of the work. So hunger signals are dampened. Satiety signals are amplified. Reward-driven eating quiets down. Your nervous system adapts to that environment. So when the signal fades, your body doesn't reset gently, it compensates. This pattern has been published numerous times in peer-reviewed journals for decades, long before GLP-1 drugs existed. It's been described after diet-induced weight loss like ketogenic diet lapses, bariatric surgery, caloric restriction, rapid fat loss of any kind. GLP-1s didn't invent this response. They bring this hyper response out. One hormone matters most here, and that's ghrelin. Ghrelin is produced by the stomach. Its job is simple. It tells the brain, eat. When weight is lost, ghrelin rises. This was shown clearly in long-term studies of weight loss, including classic work published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2011. When GLP-1 signaling is reduced or removed, ghrelin can rise above baseline for a period of time. That's why hunger can feel urgent, distracting, and hard to ignore. But know this surge is not forever. At the same time, another signal is changing. Do you remember leptin? Leptin is produced by fat cells. It tells the brain, we have enough energy, you're safe. When fat mass drops, leptin drops. That reduction in leptin is one of the strongest drivers of post-weight gain hunger and reduced energy expenditure. This has been described extensively in metabolic adaptation literature, including reviews in Endocrine Reviews and Nature Medicine. So now you have a mismatch. Higher hunger signals, lower satiety signals. That mismatch creates the surge. Here's where your exits fail. People feel the surge and assume this is permanent. I can't live like this. I need to fix this immediately. TikTok is full of panic videos like this. So structure collapses, planning and boundaries disappear. Eating becomes reactive. But it's not because people are weak or broken. Because they think something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. This phase was predictable. Let's talk briefly about how these medications leave the body. Semaglutide has a half-life of roughly 7 days. That's been well described in pharmacokinetic studies. What that means is this: the signal fades gradually over several weeks. But to the brain, especially the hypothalamus, that change can feel abrupt. This is why in obesity medicine literature and clinical discussions, you'll see references to gradual signal transition rather than abrupt removal of a biological consideration. For those who want to read further, I will leave the major references in the description. So let's fix all that by asking better questions to protect you. Instead of asking, should I stop? Ask, what should I expect in the first few weeks? How long does hunger typically stay elevated? What supports help during this phase? What signals mean we should slow down? Those questions alone change trajectories and your short-term and long-term responses. This part matters. Long-term follow-up studies show that hunger hormones do stabilize over time, especially when muscle mass is preserved and inflammation is reduced. But this doesn't happen overnight. This has been shown repeatedly in long-term weight loss physiology studies. The danger is thinking hunger means damage. The goal is not to eliminate hunger. Hunger is actually quite normal. This means your system is working. The goal is to avoid panic-driven decisions during a transient biological adjustment. That requires protection, and the strongest protection is not willpower. The majority of people will fail if it is left to willpower. What works is preparation. So now you need to talk about the one thing that determines whether this phase becomes manageable or a failure. If someone tried to sell you a supplement or a biohack to magically fix this, run away and save your money. The answer is muscle. If you're finding this useful and you want more long-form evidence-based breakdowns like this, subscribing helps you see future videos when they come out. And next in this video, we're going to break down why muscle loss predicts regain, why protein is misunderstood on GLP-1 medications, and how resistant training acts as a metabolic insurance. That's where stability actually begins. Before we go any further, I want to reset the frame. If people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1 medication, it's rarely because of food choices alone. It's because they exited with less muscle than they realize. And muscle loss is quiet. You don't feel it happening. If you remember one thing from this entire video, remember this: muscle is what turns weight loss into stability. In this context, your success doesn't depend on motivation, discipline, or restriction. Most people think muscle is about appearance. That's a misunderstanding. Muscle is metabolically active tissue, and it directly affects your hormones. It burns calories at rest, clears glucose from bloodstream, improves insulin sensitivity, buffers against insulin resistance, signals safety to the nervous system. When muscle mass drops, resting metabolic rate drops with it, but it happens quietly. This relationship has been described repeatedly in body composition and metabolism studies, including research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism and the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. I'll leave the links in the description. Here's what I see over and over. Weight comes off quickly. Appetite is suppressed. Meals get smaller. Protein intake drops unintentionally. Resistant training feels harder, so patients quit. Energy is lower. And without realizing it, people lose muscle mass, along with fat mass. This has been shown in imaging studies such as low-dose X-ray beams, also known as DXA-based body composition studies in people losing weight through dieting, surgery, and pharmacologic therapy, including GLP-1s, because no one told them what to protect. So this is why this education is crucial. And here's a critical moment. The medication signal fades, hunger returns, but now it returns into a body with less muscle, lower resting metabolic rate, higher hunger signaling, and that combination is unforgiving. This is why regain can feel fast and unfair after all you've been through. Now let's talk about protein without turning it into a bodybuilding lecture. Protein isn't about building huge muscles. It's about not shrinking your metabolic engine. Muscle tissue is built from amino acids. If amino acids aren't available, the body breaks muscle down. In the scientific literature, protein intake ranges around 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. This is often discussed for muscle preservation during weight loss. This is different from bodybuilding numbers. It's a priority framework discussed in nutrition reviews, clinical nutrition, sports medicine, and this is something to plan deliberately, and getting help from a clinician or a dietitian may be important in this context. On GLP-1 medications, protein is usually the first thing to disappear. You're just full faster, and it isn't intentional. So unless protein is deliberate, muscle loss becomes subtle and then obvious later. This is why people say, I didn't regain much weight, but my body feels different. Your composition is definitely different. Now, protein alone is not enough. Muscle needs a reason to stay, and it is mechanical load. Resistant training sends one clear message. This tissue is necessary. Don't dismantle it. It's basically use it or lose it, because it's expensive to maintain this tissue because we are in famine. This doesn't require extreme workouts like CrossFit style exercises or bodybuilding. Studies published in Sports Medicine show that during weight loss, even 2 to 3 sessions per week can significantly reduce lean mass loss. Think of it as a metabolic insurance, not aesthetics. Your self-talk should be, it's a must-preserve tissue, or else I'm in trouble. And here's something most people don't realize. Muscle doesn't just burn calories, it affects hunger signaling. More muscle improves insulin sensitivity, reduces glycemic variability, and lowers inflammatory signaling. All of those reduce noise in hunger pathways. This relationship is discussed in Cell Metabolism and Nature Medicine in the context of metabolic health and inflammation. Here's the good news. If you didn't protect muscle in the past, that's not failure. It's just missing information, and information can be corrected. This phase isn't about perfection. The goal here is not exiting unprotected. Muscle is the foundation. But muscle alone doesn't fully replace the fullness signal that GLP-1 medications provided. Next in this video, we're going to talk about satiety without the drug, fiber and volume as scaffolding, inflammation as the hidden regulator, and how to think long-term without fear. That's where everything comes together. If you've stayed with me this long, you already understand something important. Your body is not broken. It's responding exactly as biology predicts. And once you stop fighting that idea, everything becomes easier to manage. GLP-1 medications don't just reduce calories. They change signals and slow gastric emptying. They amplify satiety. They quiet reward-driven eating. They give the nervous system a sense of safety around food. So when that signal fades, the goal is not to replace the drug. The goal is to support the nervous system while your internal signaling recalibrates. That distinction matters. There are two major forms of fullness: chemical satiety mediated by hormones, and mechanical satiety, which is mediated by stretch and volume. GLP-1 medications amplify chemical satiety. When that fades, mechanical satiety matters even more. In other words, stretch receptors in the stomach wall send signals through the vagus nerve to the brainstem. That pathway works whether you're on medication or not. This is why high volume, lower energy foods matter during transition phases. Foods such as vegetables, beans, lentils, oats, and berries can be very helpful. They create physical fullness without overwhelming calories. This principle has been studied extensively in satiety and appetite research published in journals like Appetite, Nutrition Reviews, and the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. It's about signaling safety and not about restriction. Now, I want to be careful here. I'm not telling you what to take or how much to take, but I want you to understand the framework that your doctor should tell you as well. Soluble fibers like psyllium absorb water and form a gel. That gel slows gastric emptying, increases stomach distension, and prolongs fullness signals. This effect is mechanical, not pharmacologic. Studies examining this mechanism appear in journals like Clinical Nutrition, Nutrition, and Appetite. I leave the links in the description for your review. If someone explores this, hydration is very important. So is medication timing. That's a clinician conversation though, not a video instruction. So make sure you ask your doctor about that. Most people try to manage the exit by tightening calories. That often makes things even worse because calories don't tell your brain if you're safe. Signals from muscle mass, fullness, sleep quality, stress load, and inflammatory tone signal safety to your brain. Research in Cell Metabolism and Nature Medicine show that perceived energy scarcity can increase hunger even when calories are adequate. This is why exits fail when they feel punitive. Now let's talk about the variable that quietly controls everything: inflammation. Chronic inflammation alters insulin sensitivity, leptin signaling, hypothalamic regulation, reward circuitry. This relationship has been described for decades. There are numerous studies that I will list in the description from journals like Nature Medicine and The Lancet. When inflammation is high, the body becomes defensive. When inflammation falls, the nervous system relaxes, and with it, hunger noise softens. Contrary to what marketing wants to tell you, reducing inflammation isn't about supplements. You have to fix the signals first, which is the hard part. So marketing will tell you to just take my supplement and all your problems will go away. This is why most supplements fail, because they cannot sustainably fix your signals. You need a few things before you consider any supplements. You need consistent sleep. It's shown in Sleep Journal and JAMA to regulate ghrelin and leptin. You need resistant training, shown in Sports Medicine to reduce inflammatory cytokines. You need whole food nutrition, not processed food, shown in BMJ and The Lancet to improve cardiometabolic markers. You need stress regulation, shown in psychoneuroimmunology literature to directly affect metabolic outcomes. Altogether, it changes the internal environment. I want to introduce you to the word protocol carefully because it is being thrown around in the wellness industry as if you will magically hack your biology without paying the cost. It's a sequence of priorities. In obesity medicine literature, you'll see clinicians discuss frameworks like protein first eating, resistant training minimums, sleep-anchored routines, gradual signal transitions, inflammation reduction phases. If you want structure during this phase, I built a free 90-day framework called Get Uninflamed 90, which is a 90-day challenge to guide you to get uninflamed. There are 12 free deep dive videos in the playlist. I will leave the link in the description. These videos are not marketing funnels and do not have any commercial sponsors. This challenge is cost-free and the videos are readily available on my YouTube channel. I created that challenge a few months ago after my wife was diagnosed with a chronic inflammatory illness, and I knew medication alone was not the answer. This challenge focuses on anti-inflammatory diet, muscle preservation, satiety scaffolding, sleep regulation, inflammation reduction, environmental toxins avoidance, lymphatic drainage, stress reduction, and healthy brain maintenance. These are exact variables that determine whether exits succeed. Of course, this protocol is not exclusive to the exit, and it's been shown to help in reducing chronic hidden inflammation in both healthy individuals who seek optimization to patients with inflammatory conditions or autoimmune conditions. Just remember that this free challenge is designed to run alongside medical care, and it's not supposed to diagnose or cure anything. It's simply supportive education to fix things from the root cause. Now, let's address the most frequently asked questions people said they were afraid to ask their doctors, so they asked in the comments from the last video. Will I be hungry forever? No, hunger stabilizes over time, especially when muscle is preserved and inflammation is reduced. What if I need to stay on medication long term? That's not failure. Obesity is often chronic. Nobody got obese overnight. In many cases, long-term treatment can be appropriate, but this doesn't mean it's forever. The exact duration of treatments are based on individuals, as results vary. What if I stop and need to restart? That's not failure either. That's medicine responding to biology, and your body takes time to heal. GLP-1 medications are not a test of character. They are powerful tools and shouldn't be considered as shortcuts. There is a high financial and biological cost associated with them. It's important to know both. For some people, they are bridges. For others, they are ongoing support. The mistake is turning metabolism into morality. I'm here to tell you your worth was never tied to hunger. You are working towards getting healthy, and each person has a different path and timeline. It's not a race. As a pathologist and physician spending decades studying human health, I want to remind you that you can't cheat biology. Every shortcut has a price, even if you don't know about it. I hope my videos help you learn how your body works, and when you work with biology instead of fighting it, things stabilize. Speaking of working with your biology, if you're interested to learn about natural alternatives of GLP-1 medications, please comment natural GLP below. At the end of the day, this isn't about perfection. It's about coherence, health, and knowing you're not broken. I'm Dr. Amin, and thank you for your interest in human science and pathology. Stay curious, stay grounded, and stay uninflamed. I'll see you in the next video.